Thank you, Mr. President. In 1905, the federal government went out into the desert of Minidoka County and they hand dug a well. And that one well was actually meant for surveyors, to provide some water for the surveyors from the federal government that were out in Minidoka County surveying the desert. But by providing that basic service, a well full of water, they attracted settlers, families, a community of people who needed water. These were people who were, I guess, smart enough or dumb enough, depending on who you ask, to move out in the desert and grab a piece of land. And they were willing to put in faith and hope and some really hard Idahoan work to settle. And they turned this farmland, this sagebrush, eventually into some of the most productive farmland, by the way, in the United States. This well was an act of public works. And what people did is they came from miles around and they lined up their wagons full of barrels, wagon after wagon after wagon, and they waited their turn to fill those barrels full of water. Those were drinking water. That was life for them. And they called the place Well First. Original name, right? Well First. And around that well, the American spirit took hold. Entrepreneurial thoughts took place, and the market economy emerged. It was clear that while people were waiting for their turn to take water, they could be sold something. And it wasn't long before commerce began, and soon there was a town square there. And around that town square, soon there were storefronts while people waited for their water. And then houses and schools and a courthouse and a magnificent, beautiful theater. And within 15 years of that well being hand dug, there were carved out of that desert 2,208 farms. And the people that had come to that well had transformed that desert into the city of Rupert, and it had become a center for commerce and justice and education. It had become a city. And by the way, that city square is still there, and it has a beautiful fountain in the middle of it, a fountain that uses that first well, the water from that first well. And it's a fountain that I would say rivals any fountain from Europe. You need to go take a look at it. It's beautiful. William Shakespeare has been attributed the saying, "What is the city but the people?" The people who came to that first well turned this simple hand-dug well into a beautiful Idaho town. Senators, I will wager that this is a story that has played out over and over again in every district represented here in county after county. Gem County, Bonner County, Madison County, Idaho County, even Ada County. It's a story that's played out over and over again. It's a story of Idahoans gathering and taking something out of nothing and making amazing communities that are represented in this chamber. Today, over 76% of our people in Idaho, over 76% of our people live in our cities. And most of these cities are small towns, like the one I've described, that still provide an invaluable life for Idahoans, children and families and seniors. And the water keeps on flowing today. The lights are kept on. The park grass is still green. There's a swimming pool now and maybe even a pickleball court, which seems to be popular nowadays. Because our local municipal governments, which are now run by those same people, just a different generation. Crime in Idaho is low because the cities of Idaho have people who are effective local police officers. People on our local city councils know what the town needs. I have found them to be very connected to our communities. What is the city but the people? Senate Concurrent Resolution 107 recognizes the vital role that the city in the state of Idaho and the people of those cities plays, and our role here in the State House, our role here in the chamber to support those cities, to enable them as local governments, to make sure that they have the resources they need as people of the state of Idaho, as the cities of the state of Idaho, to serve the people of the state of Idaho, to make sure that we do here in the State House right by them and not to overburden them, to make sure they have the resources they need. Mr. President, may I read from an address to Congress on January 30th, 1962 by President John F. Kennedy?
Having cited the source center, Anthony, you're free to read.
Thank you. President John F. Kennedy, in an address to Congress, January 30th, 1962, he said this: "We will neglect our cities to our peril, for in neglecting them, we neglect the nation." Senators, Idaho would not have been built without the city. Idaho could not function today without the city. We know that. And so let us continue to support our cities and our people. And so I ask today that you support this concurrent resolution, which just recognizes what I've talked about, that our cities are important, that we have a role to play in supporting them, that local government's important, and that as we work together, we serve the people of Idaho. With that, Mr. President, debate is open.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President.
Senator Ward Ingle-King.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the senator from 27 for bringing this resolution. I love it, but I believe it too is aspirational. Unfortunately, last session we had over 10 bills that preempted local control. And I represent one of the cities which is often at the receiving end of that. So I just hope that this legislature will take this to heart and that we will look at these bills from the lens of local control and local cities. And I think that's where we get the best governance. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further debate?
Mr. President.
Senator Byrne.
Mr. President, to debate.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Good senators, very grateful for our dear pro tem from District 27 and for this resolution. It was a little after 2003 when I moved to this valley. I crossed paths with former Mayor Tammy DeVeard in the city of Meridian, and she got me involved in local government. I started out on the Parks and Rec Commission, served on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and got in. And after that is when I got into local government. It's when I got into politics, and I saw firsthand how well our cities and our municipalities are ran. I saw firsthand how much our municipalities and local government officials and how much they're engaged and how much they care. Because at the end of the day, that's where community starts. Community starts at the local level, and I truly believe that the purest form of government is local government. And I want all cities, city employees, city officials across our great state to know how much we appreciate their efforts. And I want them to know that there are people in this capital that care about them and appreciate all that they do to make communities strong and safe and friendly to families. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there further debate?
Mr. President,
Senator Wintrow,
thank you, Mr. President, to briefly debate in favor of the bill.
you have the floor.
Listening to the senators that were just speaking, both the pro tem and the senator from 21, it really made me feel proud of my city. I love my community, and many times when people say, why did you run for office? It's because I love my community. And I just have such great pride in the services and the people that are serving us, so I applaud that, and it does make me feel good. It makes me feel connected, so thank you, Senator.
Senator Anthony, you're recognized to close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciated the debate here on the floor. I think there's an understanding here on the floor that we do appreciate our local governments and we do appreciate our cities, and that's really what SCR 107 is meant to be. An expression of the appreciation of the Idaho cities and an appreciation of the things they do for the people of Idaho. And with that, Mr. President, debate is closed.
Debate is closed. The question before you is, shall Senate Concurrent Resolution 107 be adopted? All in favor of adopting SCR 107, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. The resolution has been adopted.